Hi everyone, Vanessa with Agency Shield here. We're going to go over all the settings that you need to have Ricochet running properly. So first, let's look at our headset settings and make sure that those are correct. With your headset, it should be a USB, by the way, and you'll plug it into the USB connection on your computer. It could be a wireless USB connection or a wired, but as long as you have that USB plugged in, should be pretty much plug and play. We're going to do another step though, which is going to be to go down to your search in Windows and type in audio to see what sound settings that you have. We want to go to the Manage Audio Devices or Manage Input Devices. So go ahead and choose whichever one your Windows comes up with. And then once you have the options that come up, you're going to see the output devices, which is your speakers. Your input devices would be your microphone. And with these, you want to disable everything but your headset. So find the option that is your headset, go to the other ones that are also enabled and then disable them. So all you have to do is click on it, disable it. Depending on your Windows version, you might have to left or right click on it, sorry, and then disable it from there. So you might need to do a right click, or if you click on it, you'll see this disable option. We want to make sure that only the headset is enabled. And what this does is it makes sure your computer knows exactly which audio device to use. If you have multiple devices enabled, then Ricochet is going to be like, I don't know which one to use. There's too many to choose from, and it could try to use something else where it won't work. Or you will only have your headset available, and that way Ricochet and your computer know that, okay, this is the only device that I have, so this is the device that I'm going to use all the time. And this is important to make sure that you have the best sound quality on Ricochet because that's going to be your phone system. So make sure everything else is disabled except for your headset. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and close out, and that's all you have to do for your headset. The next settings we're going to go over is in Google. So make sure you have Google Chrome open because Ricochet lives inside of Google Chrome. Ricochet is only going to work in Google Chrome. So make sure that you're always opening Google Chrome with Ricochet. Once you have Google Chrome open, the top right, there's the little three dots. That is your Google menu. And keep an eye out at those little three dots. Sometimes they might try to tell you something, like you might need to update your Google Chrome browser or something to that effect. It'll give you a little option up here. You might see an error option. Sometimes there will be a different notification. If you've got nothing, that's a good sign. Let's click on the three dots. We'll go to the menu. You're going to navigate to Help and About Google Chrome first. This is going to check to make sure you have the latest and greatest version of Google. Once it shows that you're up to date, you're good to go. If it's not up to date, it's going to show that it's updating. When it's finished updating, it's going to tell you to relaunch. So click that little relaunch button. It's going to drop your Google Chrome down and then it'll pop it right back up. The next thing we want to do is in the search settings bar, type in hardware. And we want to make sure that the hardware acceleration option is turned off. If it doesn't come up right away like mine is doing right now, scroll to the very bottom. It should pop up here. So we have the hardware acceleration when available. We want to make sure it's in the grayed out position. So you want to make sure it's turned off. If yours is in the blue position, you're going to want to click on it so that it turns it off. It's going to give you yet another relaunch button. So make sure to click on that relaunch button. It'll drop everything down, pop it right back up for you, and then that setting's going to be enabled. So we want to always make sure hardware acceleration is turned off. We updated, turned off hardware. Third thing we need to do is clear cache. So go ahead and type in CACHE. We're going to go to this clear cache option here. And once this box is up, you're going to make sure you're in the basic tab only. Make sure your time range is set to all time. You can leave this unchecked. You can leave this unchecked. We just want to make sure that cached images and files is checked, and then we're going to clear it. So I use Google a lot. I have a lot of tabs open, so I have a lot here. But what you want to do is try to keep that number under 100. That's kind of where I see the sweet spot where everything's working properly. But if you have any issues, always just clear cache. And clearing cache is something you want to do daily. And a good example of that is imagine living in a hoarder's house. We know Google's spying on everything that you do. So it's going to be collecting all the junk of every single website that you've ever been to. And that's kind of like being in a hoarder's house. So it's hoarding all this junk on you. And you want to be able to clean house because you're Ricochet living in that hoarder's house. So you have to clean the house every day because otherwise, if you don't clean the house every day, that junk's going to continue to pile up. You won't be able to get through rooms very well. You might get stuck in a room because of all the junk. You won't be able to run down the hallway, if you needed to. So that's why we're always clearing cache daily. You're cleaning up all the junk in the hoarder's house, and you want to make sure that it's set to all time because if you only cleaned up the last hour of a hoarder's house, you're not going to do much work. But if you cleaned up all time, that's going to make the house nice and clean, and you want to keep it that way. So you want to clear cache daily or even more often than once a day. If you're like me, you use a ton of Google tabs, a ton of Google windows open. You might have to do it more than once a day. But a general rule of thumb, clear it daily. And if you run into any issues, just clear cache. That's 99.9% of the issues that you'll have in Ricochet is just you didn't clear cache. So by clearing this cache daily, you're going to free up all that junk. And what I would do while you have the box popped up is to bookmark this. That way you're going to get a little visual cue on your bookmark bar that you need to clear cache. And when you're first starting out in Ricochet, you might want to write yourself a post-it note or write in permanent marker on your forehead to clear cache. Whatever you need to do to remember it, because this is a new habit you're going to have to get into. Clearing cache daily. It only takes a second when you're doing it daily. So the first time you do it, it's probably going to take just as long as mine or longer if you have even more. And once this clears, I'll show you how quickly it happens when it's clear. It only takes a second. So very fast thing to do. And it also keeps Google running smoothly. So other sites that you're in will also benefit from that. Now, if you do run into more issues and clearing cache didn't solve it, you might need to clear cookies as well, but clearing cookies is going to sign you out of sites. So I would use that as kind of a last method after going through all the other settings. But again, if all these other settings don't clear up your issue, then clearing cookies would also help. So just keep that in mind for troubleshooting. Next, we're going to go over to our left-hand side where it says extensions. And when you click on extensions, it's going to show you all the extensions you have. And extensions are kind of like apps on your phone. So the more apps you have, the slower things are going to run. So you want to keep it nice and clean in here. As a general rule, if it's turned off, you're not using it. If you don't know what it is, trust me, you're not using it. And also, any ad blockers or web protectors, things like that, you want to remove. So, one that we know is a known offender of Ricochet is McAfee web protector. So if you have that McAfee extension in here, just completely remove it. Don't worry, it's not removing any of the actual software that you downloaded on your computer from McAfee. It's just removing this pesky little extension that doesn't really do much except cause issues. So we want to give you pop-ups, we want to use your microphone, and we want to give you notifications in Ricochet. Those are going to prevent that from happening and also cause other issues, not letting Ricochet run properly. So just get rid of anything you're not using. If it's turned off, you can remove it. If you don't know what it is, remove it. Just completely remove it. These Chrome apps down here, these are fine. They're actually Google approved apps, so you can keep those. I use my dark reader. As you can tell, I have everything in dark mode for my eyes. Google Docs offline, sometimes I use it, so I leave it off when I'm not using it. And then if I do need to come in here and use it, I can turn it on. So that's with your extensions. Just get rid of anything that's turned off. Get rid of anything you don't know what it is. Get rid of any kind of ad blocker or web protector. The ad blocker, if you do use that constantly, just make sure that Ricochet is whitelisted in your settings for that. So you can have it, but just make sure Ricochet is whitelisted. Now that you're done with all the settings, you can click out of them. You don't need them anymore, but we're going to go to Ricochet and we need to make sure that Ricochet has 3 settings. So in Google, we did the 4 settings: updating, turning off hardware. You're going to clean the cache daily, and then also get rid of any bad extensions. Those are the 4 things for Google. 3 things for Ricochet: you're going to go to the Ricochet website. So this link at the top, the actual address, There's a little lock next to it. Click on that lock and it brings up your menu for the site settings. Site settings means that we're only doing these settings for Ricochet, so we're not going to allow other settings to be run by any other websites. You don't want to do that as a whole. We just want to take care of Ricochet. So inside of Ricochet, you're going to make sure microphone is set to allow, notifications is set to allow, and pop-ups and redirects is also set to allow. If you don't see these here at first, when you're first doing the settings, you won't have those. So go to Site Settings at the very bottom. That's going to allow you to choose those three options from this long list of settings. So just find microphone and make sure that's set to allow. That's going to make sure that you can make and receive phone calls, which is kind of important when you're using it as a phone system. Notifications you want to have set to allow. That's going to show you your voicemail notifications, your chat notifications. And then pop-ups and redirects we also want set to allow. So that's going to be the pop-ups in Ricochet, like your tasks, and redirects, like where we have this cool bookmark type thing for Ricochet. And that would allow you to go to Zillow or other different websites we have. Once you've done that, you can close out of your settings menu. You'll have to reload Ricochet, so it'll give you a little reload option. But one way to troubleshoot, I like to go to this little lock, check to make sure all three are set to allow. If those are all three set to allow, then go to your Google settings. Make sure all those four settings are correct. If you're still having any issues, now you can go to help. At the bottom, we've got the little help option, and they'll actually give you some options to do if you click on this. So once you click on that, you can search for any questions that you may have with Ricochet. So you could do the help here, or you could also do the help here to get support, and it'll give you the same option.